Okay, so just to kind of keep us to time, we should have 45 minutes together today, and our agenda looks a little bit like this, and this is webinar number 2 of 3, and they're all focused on cost and emissions reductions, with today's all about reducing waste and specifically food waste. I may have been a little overzealous with my content, and we did also want to cover reducing packaging waste and reducing water waste, but in 45 minutes, and in order to do these topics justice, we probably need to come back to them at a later date. So our focus today is on 2 of the topics, and that's food waste and the circular economy. And there'll be a specific question in the feedback form that comes out later, asking you if you want us to cover the topics of water waste and packaging waste on a webinar. If that's something you're interested in, then we can certainly do that. I'll just do some quick introductions then. So we've got Gerry Boyle with us today. Gerry works at Zero Waste Scotland, and he helps businesses reduce food waste using practical tools and resources that they've developed to save money and cut their emissions. Excuse me. He comes with a lot of food service and hospitality expertise, so it's a world he's very familiar with. And then we also have Terri, who is based in the Northeast. Some of you may know her already. And she spent 4 years at Aberdeen Chamber of Commerce in a circular economy role there, and continues to support businesses to identify opportunities in the circular economy, among other climate change and sustainability related topics. And then there's me and my sustainability role at One. For anyone who doesn't know me, my other environmental experience also comes from Zero Waste Scotland in food waste, where I had the pleasure of working alongside Gerry for a couple of years. So please send your questions in the chat throughout, or you can just wait till the end and ask them directly if you'd like. This is not about us knowing all the answers at all, so feel free to converse with each other as well if you feel like there's things that you can learn from each other or wisdom that you can share. And as you know, it's being recorded, so you'll share afterwards if there's anything that you want to return to. Just before we get into the presentations, I wanted to share this hierarchy, and it's really to provide a frame for the conversation. And this is approached from the perspective of least and most preferred in terms of emissions, greenhouse gas emissions. So first at the top there is reduction and reuse. And that's generally where you can save money and potentially create a new income stream. And that's where food waste reduction and the circular economy sit at that sort of top level. Technically, I'd separate those 2 things out and would look at reducing waste before considering circularity. And the flow of presentations today kind of reflects that as well. And then the 2 layers underneath that are redistribution, which we see a lot now from retailers, hospitality, and also sometimes agriculture. And again, separated with feeding humans being essential to feeding animals. And then if you come down to the next level at industrial, and that's where things like anaerobic digestion or converting oil into fuel might sit. And that technically has a lower carbon footprint in a commercial sense than composting does. So then at the very bottom there, of course, is the least preferred option, which is to dispose of it. With that in mind, I will move over to Gerry's presentation. Can I just make a request that anyone who isn't speaking right now turns themselves on to mute, because I think we've got a wee bit of background noise going on. It may be coming from the telephone number one, I think. But yeah, we'll move it. I'll stop sharing my screen and we'll share Gerry's presentation.
Every year, 1/3 of food goes to waste. That's 1.3 billion tonnes, weighing more than 24,500 fourth rail bridges. That, right there, is a big problem. Of course, not all food waste is avoidable. Things like eggshells, meat bones and tea bags don't exactly make good leftovers. But a whopping 70% of the food we throw away was, at one point, edible. The resources wasted in production and transportation, along with the gases released as this food decomposes, creates 3 times more greenhouse gas emissions than global air travel. But we can take action. Let's look at the impact you can make by reducing food waste. Well, making your business more sustainable matters to your customers. Just imagine the difference reducing food waste could have on your running costs. You can even help improve food security by ensuring that food isn't wasted. Reducing food waste is everyone's business. Making it a priority helps Scotland tackle climate change. Find out more at foodwaste.scot. Every year, every year.
Happy New Year. Good morning all. Hope you have recovered from the festivities and looking forward to a prosperous 2023. Thanks for taking the time out today and thanks for the opportunity to speak. Well, I say speak, but it's more of a bark at the moment with my cold. Anyway, I'm Gerry Boyle from Zero Waste Scotland and I work in the food systems and bioeconomy team here. For the next few minutes, let's focus on the benefits of food waste reduction, environmental and financial, as well as the tools and supports available to your food and drink business. The short explainer video gave you some of the headlines on this, but just to reiterate some of the macro stats. If food waste or lost was a country, it'd be the 3rd largest emitter of greenhouse gases behind the US and China. And we're all aware of the plastics impact on the environment. So to put it in the context of food waste, 1 kilogram of food waste produces carbon emissions equivalent to landfilling 25,000 plastic bottles. That's 25,000. It's food for thought there, if you pardon the pun. But along with the environmental benefits of being a responsible operator and preventing your food waste, there are also financial benefits in reducing your food waste. There's no hiding from the headlines. Food prices and inflation are at record highs. And in food and drink operations where margins were always tight, we need to reduce costs. Wasting less and valuing that now semi-precious commodity which is food will have a positive effect on your bottom line. To that end, you've heard me talk about food waste reduction. That's why I'm here. But let's take that word waste out of there. Let's look about how we can increase the value we get from the food. As soon as we label it as waste, it's written off. So let's call it what it is. It's food. Let's use it, valorise it, all of it, as much as we can to prevent waste. The cost of food waste generated in the manufacturing sector was, and I repeat, was an estimated £1,241 per tonne. Now, that figure was estimated way before any of the recent price inflation that I just mentioned. So, a rather conservative estimate, I would say. And now consider that I recently audited a food and drink business whose annual wastage, based on their own monitoring, I may add, was just shy of 200 tonnes. That means the cost of that business is just under £250,000 per annum, not to mention the hidden costs. You know, the cost of the energy to produce, the cost of the resource in the production, the cost of water, the cost of storing the ingredients in fridges and freezer. These costs can be reduced just by adopting a food waste reduction strategy. And that's why we created the 1 month challenge, which I'd like to speak to you today about. The Food Waste Challenge was developed as a comprehensive one-stop shop tool for any food business to start your food waste reduction journey. Help you baseline, identify hotspots, design interventions, and track impact on environment and costs. Now, the first step is all about getting to grips with the current food waste status. This is the time to gather the data you already have, or you may not even realise you have, to get an idea of where you are to get a starting point. Speak to your staff, to your waste contractors, gain a better understanding of your current waste management procedures before we move on to the next step of measuring and monitoring. Now, this step is very simple. It is measure and monitor your waste to get a better picture of the food waste generated, where it's generated, the amount, and ultimately why. The third step goes ways to answering that why. It's about analysing the results from your measuring and monitoring period. Share these results with your wider organisations and discuss the potential causes and identify potential solutions together. Now, step 4, this is when things really get moving, as this is the time to develop that winning action plan. Create a target for your teams. Prioritise the interventions that have been suggested, create actions, milestones, and put the right steps in place. Now, don't be afraid to reach out for support. Share your results with us and we can support you through our business support service. Our business support service has saved 40,000 tonnes of CO2 and identified £8 million worth of savings to businesses. The support could be help with raising awareness amongst your employees, help guide them through the plethora of tools and resources that are available, help your business create a bespoke food waste reduction action plan, and one-to-one audits where myself or one of the team can work with your team. Get into the nitty-gritty, look through your results from your measuring and monitoring challenge and find out what creative, impactful actions we need to reduce costs and extract as much value as we can from that food. Before I sign off, if I haven't given you enough to digest, some further reading. The Scottish Government Food Waste Reduction Action Plan outlines the how we can collaborate to reduce the avoidable waste, support your business in measuring the waste, and think differently about food waste. You know, that piece about bringing back the value of food. And there's also a great blueprint to build your own plan. Now, the link to this plan, as well as the link to the Food Waste Reduction Challenge, will be included, will be sent to you post-event. But it is worth noting that the Food Waste Reduction Action Plan is currently under review, and there will be a new one coming quite shortly, so keep your eyes peeled. That's it for me. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen, even if I was a bit hoarse. And I look forward to any questions, and I also look forward to supporting your business through its food waste reduction journey. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Gerry. Hopefully there were some helpful insights there, and all those resources will be shared, of course, and get any questions that you have for Gerry ready, and we'll address those after we hear from Terri, and we'll just get her presentation uploaded imminently.
Good morning. As businesses, individuals, society and government, we face three major challenges over the next few decades. The first is the climate emergency, with which we're all very familiar. We need to look at how we're going to reduce our emissions, but also how we're going to adapt to the inevitable changes in the climate, which could potentially have significant impacts for the food and drink industry. Secondly, resource depletion. If we continue to use resources at the rate we are doing today, we will run out of many vital resources in the next 50 years. And the third is what to do with our waste. I think items such as this plastic bottle washed on a beach demonstrates clearly how unsustainable our current patterns of consumption are. This bottle is made from a non-renewable resource. The manufacturing and transportation of it produced considerable carbon emissions, and now it's lying on a beach, harming the environment and with no economic value. So to address these challenges, we need to move to a circular economy. So that means moving from our current pattern of economy, which is extracting resources, using them and throwing them away, to an economy where we value all resources and materials and keep them circulating and adding value to the economy. This will reduce carbon emissions, it'll help preserve resources, and it'll reduce waste, because we're going to be manufacturing, transporting, and throwing away much less. So the circular economy is fundamentally about making things last and ensuring that when things do come to the end of life, their value is put back in the economy. So we need to ensure that we maintain, repair, remanufacture, and keep goods operating. This may involve need for innovation, and it may involve the need for new business models. And for examples of this, you'll see in that top picture an edible water pod made from seaweed extract. This water pod was launched in the 2019 London Marathon as an alternative to the single-use drinking bottles that are commonly thrown down on the street. The second is a cup drop-off point for a new cup reuse scheme that was launched in Bristol this summer. It's a totally different business model. When you buy your coffee, you buy it in a reusable cup for which you pay a deposit, and when you return that cup, your deposit is returned to you. So what does this mean for the food and drinks industry? The food and drinks industry uses many resources, as does every industry, in its buildings, equipment, material, transport and packaging. So to move to a circular economy, we need to be trying to prevent waste arising from any of these processes, or where it does arise, see if it can be used for as a valuable resource for some other purpose. So examples might be preventing losses during the food manufacturing process, which may seem basic, but it is at least one company that I've worked with where, in order to get rid of the waste problem, they actually managed to capture and return the losses within the manufacturing process back into the process. It may be that the waste produced could be converted to another product, and there are examples of this in the soft fruit industry, where damaged berries are converted to sauces or jams, or damaged potatoes could be used to produce vodka. Solutions may be in new business models. The single bottle water is a challenge. We saw the edible pouches. Maybe the future of bottled water is going to be moving to top-up points, bars or vending machines. And there may also be added value opportunities from the bioeconomy. So what exactly is the bioeconomy? Well, our current economy is an oil-based economy where we rely on many chemicals that are produced from oils in both our food, energy and industrial goods. In a bioeconomy, many of these chemicals are derived from sustainable, renewable, biological resources. So just let me give you some examples from a study that Zero Waste Scotland recently funded, looking at the bioeconomy opportunities in agricultural waste. So for example, waste straw, wax could be extracted from that straw and converted to things like candles or to be used in cosmetics. Potato haulms, the green bits on the top of the potatoes, contain chemicals that are commonly used in cosmetics. Soft fruits contain colorants and antioxidants that are often added to food products. And rapeseed oil cake also contains many chemicals that are used as additives in the food industry. So just to illustrate a little bit more examples of circular economy, I've taken some case studies to talk you through. These first three case studies are not linked to the food and drinks industry, but just give you a slightly wider example of what's going on. Rethinking design. Adidas have now developed a running shoe that can continually be recycled. So it looks like a typical Adidas shoe, but it's actually only made out of one type of plastic. It can simply be shredded at end of life and put back into the manufacturing process. The second example is showing how you can add value to waste. So these handbags are made by a company in London who take all the old fire hoses from the London Fire Brigade, which used to go to landfill. The third example is one of reuse and remanufacturing, where the company Caterpillar can take back almost any former Caterpillar components and remanufacture them and re-certify them and send them back to their customers or to new customers. Moving to the food and drink industry, Jaw Brew is an example of a company who worked with a local bakers in Glasgow and took their morning rolls, which were often left over at the end of the day, to produce a beer called Hardtack. They're also now producing protein bars from the brewery waste. Another company, Regrained Supergrained, an American company, also take brewery waste and convert it into highly nutritional baking ingredients. Rubies and the Rubble take fresh fruit and vegetables from farms which are not suitable for supermarket shelves and convert them into ketchups and relishes. The two raccoons from Aberdeen produce wine from excess fruit. The fish processing industry is an example of an industry where there's a huge amount more value that can be obtained from the fish, which currently in Scotland we simply fillet. There can be oils, canned products from the cod liver, etc., as well as fish mince from the bones. This is just an example of some products that come from the fish industry in Iceland. Omega-3 oil and also fish treats. Here are some other examples of things that have been done with fish byproducts. It's been discovered that fish skins are a very effective treatment for burns and can also be produced, made into fish belts. Coantech is a Scottish company that extract chitin from shellfish waste. This chitin they then convert into bioplastics. These plastics are biodegradable, but they also have natural antimicrobial properties, which mean they can extend the life of any food that's packaged within them. The malt whisky industry in Scotland produces around 3 billion litres of pot ale. A company called Horizon Proteins have been taking that material and converting it into high quality nutrients for animal and fish feed. And their goal is to replace traditional proteins used in salmon feeding, such as fish meal and soybean, much of which is imported to this country, and replace it with locally sourced materials. There are an estimated 40,000 tonnes of used coffee grounds in Scotland, most of which goes in with the general waste. Some of it might go in with food waste. But there are a number of companies now that are separating out these materials because there are highly valuable chemicals in coffee grounds as well, including coffee oil, which is used in cosmetics. And it can be also used as a growing medium, in particular for mushrooms. So it can be seen from the case studies that there are some significant opportunities in the food and drink sector. Many of the byproducts of the industry contain high value materials that can be extracted and used in other industries. There are byproducts that can be turned into other products, representing new business opportunities. There are also opportunities around innovation in areas like packaging, single use, etc. Realising these opportunities is going to depend on collaboration, and that might be with the supply chain, looking at packaging type issues. It might be with academia. The number of the companies where those examples are given have actually been working with academia to understand how to extract materials, etc. Or it might be about working with other businesses to enable sufficient volumes and economies of scale. So who might help you to realise some of these opportunities? Zero Waste Scotland has a circular economy business support service which provides one-to-one advice to companies who have circular economy ideas. They also have an investment fund which they're going to be relaunching in the next few months, which provides higher amounts of business investment for people who maybe want to change their processes. And there are also grants and funding available through Interface to work with universities on sort of maybe some of the more bioeconomy related ideas, which could potentially lead to longer term relationships and knowledge transfer partnerships. So I hope this very short introduction has encouraged you to think about how you might benefit from the circular economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Terri. Some really interesting examples there. I hope you'll agree, and possibly some relevant and recognisable uses for things like uses into things like fish oils, because I know that many of our seafood processors are already using excess, we'll call it, rather than waste. I will open it up now for questions. Does anyone have any questions either for Gerry or Terri on the subjects of food waste and circular economy? Andrew, you have a hand up.
Yeah, hello there. I'm Andrew Brown from Macduff Shellfish. So thank you for those presentations. Yeah, lots of interest there. I've got a couple of questions. First one really for Gerry. Terri was talking both about food waste and food packaging waste. Some of the stats you were giving at the start of your presentation were quite scary. Were you just talking there about the kind of organic food product rather than waste, just to understand the stats?
Sorry, for myself, yes. Yes, it was just organic food waste. Yes, that's all I was talking about, yes.
Okay, thanks. So I just wanted to get that point clarified.
No problem.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, it's really interesting. We at Macduff have been involved with the likes of Quantech, with looking at recycling chitin from our nephroc shells. We're also looking at working with the James Hutton Institute on soil conditioners from the same kind of thing. So we are looking into this as a way of reducing our our waste product, and we actually achieved a zero landfill last year, but we're still putting organic waste into incinerators, although it is energy out as well. So there is a wee bit of recycling there. I mean, I think one of the things for the seafood industry is that when you look at places like Norway or Iceland, we're actually way behind them, which is quite surprising given that particularly Iceland don't have that much in terms of biotechnology companies operating in Iceland. So I'm wondering if both Gerry and Terri, if you've got any views on why are we so far behind? Why aren't we making the connections when they are there to be made? Thanks.
I think I can add a bit. I think Iceland, I think, has had a lot of backing, government backing in terms of development of the industry because it's such a significant industry to Iceland. The other thing is, I think it's going to involve some significant investment as well as significant collaboration. A lot of the way in which we process fish at the moment in Scotland is quite a manual process. Whilst in order to extract some of these high value materials like the skins, like the roes, etc., it's going to have to involve changes in the fish processing process, which is going to have to involve some investment. So I think, and the other thing is collaboration, because in terms of volumes, an individual fish processor, particularly some of the small processors in Scotland, don't have sufficient volumes or sufficient capital to do anything on their own. So it really does involve or need to involve sort of cross-industry collaboration.
Yeah, I would agree with Terri there. The two main things are collaboration and funding. And that collaboration is key because there's lots of innovation out there. We just don't know. Well, a lot of operators just don't know where to find it. Who's making. So that link to the universities is also key. That's where some of that innovation is coming from. I mean, it's not your raison d'etre to to find out what you can do with the fish scales. There's lots of intelligent people elsewhere that can find that out for you. So it's just making those links, I think, that are key. And then from there, that's where you can get that proposal to get some of the funding that could be available from the Circular Economy Investment Fund.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think what both of you said makes absolute sense. And Terri, yeah, you're quite right about the Icelandic industry and the way it operates. So yeah, useful insights. Thank you.
The final piece I would just add to that is that Martin Fiddler, who I'm sure most of you who are in seafood know, he's our seafood transformation project manager. There was a small group went to Iceland last year on a learning journey to have a look around and see. And when they came back, I think we're just blown away by how highly automated everything is. It really is kind of ahead of its time in that sense, and they collaborate really effectively as well. So thank you for that. Anyone else have any questions? Andrew, you can't be the one and only person who's had a question. No curiosities. You could just type them into the chat if you want. No? Okay, well, I'll dive in then. You actually mentioned, Andrew, about sending, you now have this sort of zero landfill policy. And when I was at Zero Waste Scotland, there was an imminent ban on organic waste being sent to landfill, but it was delayed due to COVID, I believe. And Gerry, I wonder if you could tell us where that's at now and kind of what the parameters will be there.
Yeah, the original date for the kind of bio ban was 2025, but according to a recent waste route map that was out for consultation, there is a proposal for a further consultation on that bio ban this year. So 2023 there'll be a consultation on the extension of that ban. So it will be beyond 2025 as far as I know, but there's no confirmation of when it would be. So that consultation will come out this year.
Okay, so a little bit longer before that.
Yeah.
Okay. I was kind of hoping to get really practical, and my hope there was that some of you would have really kind of in the moment questions that you would be able to ask Gerry or Terri about in your own operations. But I wonder if I just kind of, if we are a manufacturing organisation and I've already identified an area of waste in my processes and I don't know what to do with it, what would you say that my next steps are, Gerry?
Well, next steps are you could contact us and we could do an audit of the business, just assess, assess that particular hotspot, that waste stream. And then that's when we could link up with the circular economy team to see if there is, another use for that, or if there's any funding that can be given towards that. And again, link up, as I said before, collaborate with another organisation to see what we can do with that particular waste stream. Okay, that makes sense. And just a comment from Lewis, actually, which is a lovely endorsement, who's worked with Zero Waste Scotland on a project to make crackers from brewer's draff, and apparently you were excellent to work with. So there you go. Thank you, Lewis.
Andrew, you have another question.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. It was in response to Gerry. I wanted to ask about these audits, Gerry. Obviously, something like a company like ours, which is dealing with shellfish, it's quite a specialised area. Yeah. So, would your audit be able to look at the byproducts that we have, be that shells, be that viscera from scallops, and help us in thinking of options for that, given that I recognise it's a fairly specialised area. This is organic material, but unlikely to be able to be used as food as such. So we have to look to alternatives. Is that the kind of thing you can help on, or at least connect us with people who would have that? And And that's the next question is, are these audits free or do we have to pay for them?
No, the audits are free. That's part of the business support service. There's two. I mean, it seems quite disjointed. There's the kind of the food waste reduction business support, and there's the circular economy business support. So if you take it as a kind of two-tier, first we'll look to reduce, and then we'll see what we've got left, and then there's the kind of the circular aspect. What can we do with what's left? So once we've got rid of everything, once we've made your business as optimal as possible, reducing as much as we can, we'll see what's left, and then it's part of the kind of circular economy aspect to see what we can do with what's left. So yes, we may not have all the answers, but at least we can identify and corroborate some of the findings you've already got, and use that information to see what is out there, what innovation is out there. There may be none, but at least we've explored it. But we'll do what we can, and that's where we'll try to link up, make those links with some of the innovators that are out there. But yes, we may not have all the answers, but at least we can together to find out what we can do.
That's great, Gerry. And could you say any more about the Zero Waste Funding Investment Fund?
Yes, it's the Circular Economy. Its name is the Circular Economy Investment Fund. Yes, so that is, again, it's a fund that's available to all businesses. You put in an application, and that is where that kind of audit is the great step towards the proposal. So the findings from that audit will say you need to do X, Y, and Z, and that kind of puts the meat on the bones for your proposal for the Circular Economy Investment Fund. It's not guaranteed, but it's just to see who we can link up with to give you that investment to make sure that you're not funding this whole journey. There is some help there for you, and as Terri was saying, that's one of the barriers to between ourselves to achieving this. Unlike Iceland, who has some of that investment, there is some investment there, but we'll deal it on a case-by-case basis. So yeah, having the audit first helps the case basically. So it gives you kind of the detail that you require to fill in that grant fund application.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Terri, I wonder if there's anything that you would want to add there about the specialism side of things, and is that where you need kind of academic support to, as Andrew says, identify something that can be done with quite a niche material?
No, I think absolutely that can be the case, and I always think people sometimes say, "Oh, you're a specialist in the circular economy." I don't think there is a specialist in the circular economy, because every single problem needs a different solution. But no, and that's where the interface grants can be particularly useful. And we do have some skill sets in particularly at Robert Gordon University. Robert Gordon University have already worked with a couple of food companies in the local area that I'm aware of, looking in particular at the methods for extracting chemicals from sort of residual organic waste that can have higher value in the food or the cosmetics industry. So the interface grant gives you about £5,000, which isn't a lot of money, but it helps test a concept. And then when you have that, there's the potential then to move on to sort of other forms of funding, potentially from Zero Waste Scotland or other areas. But no, it is. I think you're right, especially with food waste, and in fact any waste. It's this question of, well, what can I do with something that nobody's found a solution for before? Because we've tended to have found the solutions for the things that are easy to reuse or recycle. But like I said, but a lot with organic waste is the value of the constituent materials rather than the actual waste itself.
Okay, thank you for that. And I had just one more slide I wanted to share before we close, and I want to make sure that we finish on time. So I'll just do that now. And so what's coming up next? Just a few things to mention to you. There will be a survey comes out today, and the support links will follow along with a recording of the webinar, and they'll all be put onto the webpage where everything else in relation to this series sits. I mentioned at the start that if you have any interest in a separate webinar on water waste and packaging waste, there's a question in there on that you can say, yes, you want to know more about that, and we'd be happy to put that together for you. You could also sign up for the next webinar on, we're almost certain it's going to be on the 7th of February, just waiting for a few confirmations, and that one's about alternative energy sources. So if you didn't see the first one, which was about energy efficiency, so reducing your energy usage as much as you possibly can, before then looking at what alternative energy sources you might want to explore. Briefly, as a slight aside, it's not a slight aside, it's quite a big aside. I wanted to mention this because I've had a few conversations in the last week about extended producer responsibility legislation. And while that doesn't come into activation until the second half of this year, if you're a business that falls into these categories, you are required to start recording your data now from the 1st of January. So if I'll send out more information in the follow-up. There's links to the government website that will tell you exactly what the criteria is and exactly what you would need to do. But you don't have to submit the data until the second half of the year, but you need to have recorded the first half of the year. I just wanted to mention that because I know that most of the people I've spoken to are unaware that that has happened. Yeah, if you go ahead and take any of the actions or on the tips that you've heard today, or you follow up with Gerry, or you follow up with Terri, or you take a look at the Circular Economy Investment Fund, I'd really like to hear from you about how you get on, because it's really important that we have an awareness of what's working for businesses, and that we can share your stories with others and inspire them at the same time.